everyone, Jennifer here again, and today I'm going to teach you about light transmission in 3D in After Effects. We're going to learn some really fun things here. So as you can see, I brought in a few things here. I have a layer of a Tiffany lamp that I cut out. I had grabbed it from the internet, and then I cut it out in Photoshop and imported just the layer, so once again, you want to go File, Import, just to give you a little refresher, File, and then I grabbed this PSD file, the Tiffany lamp, and I had separated the Tiffany lamp from its background, by selecting the subject or doing quick selection. One of those ways of removing a background that I've covered in earlier lessons, which you can refer to in this course. And then I selected footage. I chose a layer. Layer 1 happened to be the lamp. Of course, I would have wanted to name it by the actual name of the lamp, like Tiffany lamp instead of layer 1. And then footage dimensions are layer size, and I clicked on OK. And that brought in just the layer 1 of the Tiffany lamp. I'm going to cancel because I already did this. Okay, then I found a JPEG that's about 683 by 1024 pixels for a wall. So I went on to images.google.com and found a nice wall background, and I made sure that it was relatively large. Remember, just to show you, if you want to do an image search, here's my floor image search. You want to make sure that you now click over here into settings and do an advanced search to find the size that you want. So instead of any size, maybe larger than 2 megapixels, etc., and go ahead and do an advanced search. Okay, and that's how I got that wall, that floor. I kind of scrolled down a little bit and I found a nice floor. I think this might be it, something like that. Oh, I looked at this one, and then there were some other possibilities within that one. I think this is the one that I grabbed. Okay, so going back to After Effects, then I created a new composition. So composition, new composition, and I made the settings, and as you can see, I named it 3D Lights and Lights Transmission. I actually named it that right here. Okay, and I set it up to be 1920 by 1080 square pixels, 23.976 frames per second, and 10 seconds long, because this is just a short little example that you're welcome to create for your assignment, or you can incorporate this into something else, like your other project that you have been doing for this class. I'm going to click on OK. Actually, I'm not going to. I'm going to cancel because this is the composition that I created. You can tell by this icon that has the triangle, circle, and square. And I double clicked on it. I clicked on it to open it. Actually, it opened itself once I made it. And I dragged in my my Tiffany lamp, my wall, and my floor. And then I clicked right here on these 3 little fields for 3D. And for my floor, now I'm going to start arranging things and making them work for this tutorial. So if you look at X rotation and degrees, watch what happens. I can actually put this into 3 dimensions. So I'm going to go ahead and make this a 3-dimensional floor here. And I think what I'll do is I'll bring it down. So I'm going to bring the position down here like this so that my lamp can sit on the floor. Now I could have made this a table, or we can just say that this floor is a table. It doesn't really matter, just as long as we know what we're doing. But this is now actually in 3 dimensions. Okay, so my next step here is I'm going to scale it up just to make it a little bit bigger so it covers the whole bottom of this area. Now once I do that, it's not looking as 3-dimensional, so I'm going to hit Command Z. I'm going to leave it like this for now, just for this tutorial. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, you'll notice that the lamp is kind of cutting underneath it, so I'm going to have to move that lamp forward. But let's focus on the wall for a moment, and I'm going to put this wall, let me go to transform, I'm going to position it back a little bit. So let's go with the Z axis, and when I make it positive, it's going to go further away. Remember, the more positive the number, the further away it is. And so I'm just going to drag it further back. And what I might do is just make it bigger, like this. So now it kind of, and as you can see, this is causing quite a bit of, it's taxing my computer. Let's make this like 2000. Let's just see where that puts it. Okay, so now it's really far back. Let's take a look. If we look at this in custom view 1, we can see where it is. So it's pretty far away from my lamp. So maybe I'll bring it down to 1000. And that looks pretty good. Now I might want to move it over. So I can just position it over. I'm going to move it along the x-axis like this way. Okay. And of course, I could really position everything very perfectly to be a real 3D looking environment. Okay. So that's pretty good, but my lamp now needs to be positioned correctly. And putting it in custom view 1 is a really great way to see what I have here and how to position things. So I'll close my wall layer and my floor layer, and I'll open up my lamp layer, and I'm going to just scale it down, and I'm going to bring it up on the y-axis like that, so that it is looking like it's really sitting on that floor. And let's see here. You know, you can make it really look perfect, okay? And then maybe I'll bring it back a little bit. So I'm going to bring its position positive, so it's a little closer to the wall. And the reason for that is that I want the I want the lamp to be able to cast a shadow on that wall. Okay, now that I did that, you'll notice that I have to bring it up on the y axis. Whoop, I'm bringing it down, sorry. Bring it up on that y axis, and you'll notice that I am in full resolution. So this is custom view 1. If I switch back to the active camera, this is what we'll see. So I might want to just adjust my and remember, active camera is what you export. So I'm going to adjust that active camera. I'll make my wall, let's see, I'll bring it over to the left a little bit, and maybe scale it up even more. Obviously, you want to go with high resolution images. That's too big. And as you can see, it says iStock on it. So, you know, when you're doing this, obviously, you're going to want to do it really professionally and make it look great. Let me move that over a little bit here, just a tad more. We're going to say that's good enough. My whole purpose for this is to show you how cool this is going to look once it's all done. Now, as you can see, my lamp is still pretty large. Now I could move it forward, I could scale it. There are a lot of things I can do to it to just kind of make it look right. Let's see, I think what I'll do is I'll make it a little bit smaller. That's really small. Let's bring it up a little bit. Remember, I put it pretty close to the wall. So maybe I'll move it a little bit closer to us. Let's just see here. As you can see, it's coming closer to us. Maybe move it down. See how the further down I move it, it may start to cut into the floor. See how it's cutting into that floor? I'm going to bring it closer to us again. Oop, the other way. The other closer. And hopefully the shadow will be cast nicely on the wall. This takes a lot of positioning and figuring out sometimes, but hopefully we'll have a good, this will be pretty good. That's looking pretty good. Let me scale it down just a little bit. Whoop. Let's go to like 68. Let's see if that will work. pretty good. It's a little close to the top. I'm not going to worry too much about this. It's just you know, show you how this is going to work. Actually, let me position it a little bit. Let's see, a little bit closer and make it a little smaller. Okay, I'm going to say that's good enough. Now, the first thing we're going to do, now as I said, we're in 3D mode, okay? So I can add lights. So if I go ahead and go to, let's see, layer new light, I'm going to start off. There are different kinds of lights you can use. Light type spotlights are really fun. And maybe I'll go with a nicely colored one. So let's go with like a yellowish spotlight. Maybe give it a little bit of a yellowish orange kind of tone, like a goldenrod almost. Click on OK. Intensity, this is all fine. Cast shadows, definitely make sure that's checked, depending on what you're doing. What I want to show you, and notice how it says note shadows are only cast from layers with cast shadows enabled to layers with accept shadows enabled. Okay, click on OK, and you'll notice that it now is pretty cool. There's this light on here, but everything's pretty dark looking, and I can fix that. I can not make it look like there's so much black around it. But first you'll notice that I want to make sure that my wall accepts shadows, because it's looking like it's not. It does say accept shadows on. So I may need to fix some things. So somehow something is going wrong here. Let me just see if I can figure this out. It's accepting shadows and lights. It's not casting a shadow of its own, and that is the wall that I'm looking at. You'll notice right here, wall copy. And this is why sometimes you really do need to figure out, well, what's going on and why am I not seeing what I'm supposed to be seeing? There could be many reasons. Let's bring this down to quarter resolution to see if that might fix the problem. I'll put everything in the lowest quality because maybe my RAM just can't handle it. Looks like that's still not working. So what I'll do is I'm going to have to probably make another tutorial that once I've figured out the problem. My guess is that I just have to reposition the light, but it could be something else. Let's just double check. You know what? Oh, I know. Let's look at the layer one before I try to figure this out without boring you. Layer one, material options. So that is my lamp. Cast shadows is off. I figured it out. I don't have to do another tutorial. And there is the shadow. Pretty cool. And you'll notice it looks like that the floor, or table, if you will, is accepting shadows also, because you can see that they're happening on that on this wooden grain. So let's take a look and see if we can make this look nice by just making this high quality. And let's go ahead and make this full. Okay, so you can see it's a very harsh kind of light, and I can adjust things to make it look better and better. So what I could do is I can take this layer, okay, and I can bring it down a little bit. So this is my lamp, and I'm going to go to the let's see, let me go to the vertical and just bring it down a little bit. And you know, what I'd have to do is I'd have to really position everything perfectly to get it to look really perfect, which can take some time, but I just want to show you how nice and cool this can look. Also, you can see that there's a bigger line here, so we really want to make sure that the way we cast shadows really looks good. So the light itself is very harsh. So let's see what we can do with that light. So let's take a look. And as you can see, we can actually, we can do some really cool things with the animating the light itself. So let's look at cast shadows. Let's look at shadow diffusion and bring that up. As you can see, that's already improving things quite a bit. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Now, one thing I could do with this is, so I'm playing with shadow diffusion. Let's look at fall off distance. just kind of play around with some of the things that we can do here. It doesn't look like it's much. Oh, let's look at none. Let's look at smooth and see if that looks very different. As you can see, that's a very different look. I'm going to go with none for now. And we have a cone angle. Let's take a look at that. Let's make it smaller. So now it's even more of a black background. I can bring it up to, like, let's do 105, and we can see more of the background here. Now, one thing I'm going to show you is, you can play around with the feather. Let's try the feather. Let's just see. Let's go up a little bit so that now it's more feathered. Obviously, if we go down, it's going to be very, let's just give it a chance to populate, and you'll see the difference here. Very strong, so that it doesn't even look like it's feathered. It's just a harsh edge. So if I go to 100 or 99% or so, it's going to look very soft here, the feathering. The intensity, let's bring it down. Let's see how that affects this. So now it's a little darker. Okay, so don't be afraid to play with all this stuff. And in fact, I will eventually bring the intensity down once I show you something else with regard to this light. But for now, let's make the intensity 100%. I just typed it in. And let's just take a look, if we look again at Custom View 1, what we have here. So the light is right here shining on everything. And it's showing us how we might be able to fix the backgrounds and move them around so that everything can look as perfect as possible. If I rotate this floor a little bit better, that might fix some of the bottom issues here below the light. But my intent is to show you some really cool things, not to waste too much time here in making this perfect, even though, I really would like to make it perfect. But you know what, just for the sake of it, let's just see if I take this, this is the floor, and I have it at negative 67 degrees. Let's see what happens if I make it negative 70. Okay, it's probably going to be more of an intense look there. So let's make it negative 60 and see if maybe we can get this to look a little bit better. I may have to just really play around with it, but you can fix something like that. You just have to move it and position it just the right way. And then there are other things you could do. If you really are having a problem, you could try to use masks, and there are all kinds of things you can do. But let's go back to light, how the light works, okay? So I've got this layer, and you'll notice that its material options are that it casts shadows. Well, what about light transmission? The reason I chose a Tiffany lamp is because Tiffany lamps are so beautiful. So if I bring light transmission up to 100%, let's just see what happens. Oh my gosh, isn't that gorgeous? Really, really beautiful. So now what I can do with a Tiffany lamp is I can actually have that shadow that it's shining on the wall and the right here really transmit light and look very realistic and beautiful. Okay, like the stained glass is now looking very realistic on this wall, and you can have these really great cinematic, beautiful virtual worlds that you can create in After Effects. Isn't that gorgeous? So I want to make sure that this isn't so dark. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add another light. Now the spotlight is pretty intense right now, so I may have to bring it down because I don't want this to be overexposed. But I'm going to go to Layer, New, Light. Okay, and we can also add cameras. Remember how I added cameras in that tutorial with this outer space, right? But right here, light type spot, let's change that to ambient. So we're going to add an ambient light, and maybe I'll just make that a white light. And I'm going to go ahead and make that completely white. So FFFFFF is completely white when we're dealing with hexadecimal codes. That's 6 Fs. Click on OK. Intensity 100%. Maybe bring it down a little bit. Okay, 88% or so. Click on OK. Now watch what happens. When you have a spotlight and an ambient light, the ambient light makes everything bright white. And what you can do now is you can play around with how the ambient light and the spotlight work with each other. So maybe bring my ambient light down quite a bit, so the spotlight is still having a nice effect and not being too blown out. But this way we don't have all that black around it. It doesn't look super, like harsh. It's going to have you have more control over how beautiful this works with your virtual cinematography. So maybe keeping my ambient light at about 39% or maybe even 25%. Let's see how that looks. Very pretty. Another thing we could do is just bring our spotlight down, although I think it's looking pretty nice, but let's bring the spotlight down and see if that might even look prettier. Probably not. In fact, I could even bring it up and make it more intense if I brought my ambient light down, just to give it more of that really beautiful look. And as you can see, this is pretty taxing on the system. I'm going to make sure I save. Command S. Don't forget to save often. Now, one thing I can do is I could have a camera that's going around the light, right? And then I can also change the light color. So let's just try something. If we do this, if I click here on the stopwatch for color of my light, I could go to like 1 second, for example, and now change the color. So any color I want. Maybe I want it to change to a really beautiful purplish, like magenta color or a pink. Okay, so now from 0 seconds, let's maybe bring this out to like somewhere around 3 seconds. This is going to go from yellow and slowly go to a pink color. As you can see, it's having trouble just figuring this all out. So I should probably bring down all of my, all of my quality and back down so that it can handle this more easily. So let's just do that really quickly. Of course, it's not going to look nice now, but I know that when I export, it's going to look beautiful. Okay, not too bad. So let's take a look. Let's see. I've changed the color of my spotlight. I'm animating it. I'm going to hit K to go to that next keyframe, and I'm going to hit N to end the work area just so I can see what this animation is going to look like. Pretty nice. So I could have it, changing rainbow colors. And then if I add a camera, let's just try that. And you can also switch cameras. You can have a few cameras. But let's go to Layer, New Camera. Okay, we can just call that Camera 1, put that there. And we can have our camera be, move around the light. So let's go with point of interest, position, orientation. That just gives us a lot of options. Maybe we can start off, and I generally like to go to camera custom view 1 for this kind of thing. Let's make this smaller here. Command minus, see how far the camera is. Turn it on again, and maybe just go to the X axis. Let's see, X, or I can go over here. Let's just try this. Let's see, it's acting a little bit weird. Let's go this way. There we go. Okay, so in this case, sometimes you just have to figure out what you want to do here. This is moving in a way that I don't necessarily like. Let's go back to active camera because, as you know, that's what we're going to export. Let's just see. Yeah, that's actually pretty cool. So I'm on the x-axis, and as you can see, look at that. That's pretty amazing. Okay, so going from here and then maybe to the end, so I can go to my spotlights keyframe, right, and hit K, go up here to my camera and move my position this way. Pretty neat. Okay, and you can really get much more creative than I am being right now. But let's just make that bigger, and let's take a look at the animation I've created. Look at that. Pretty amazing. Beautiful. So that's your assignment. Enjoy, and I have a lot more to show you. Have fun and take care.